I was just thinking about it today. Here's the big reason why Nintendo Switch killed it this generation, and PlayStation and Xbox certainly did not. PlayStation 5, for the record, did sell 50 million units. That's nothing to scoff at. But when it comes to competing against one another, the Nintendo Switch sold 141 million units. And of course, it's a multifaceted thing, but there's one particular topic that I do want to touch on, and not say that this is the only reason, but it's definitely a big reason that these executives both at Sony and Microsoft have it all wrong, and that is exclusives and having games. So the Nintendo Switch, throughout its entire life cycle, had this great flow of games. Like, no matter which year you pick, there really wasn't like a terrible year. There are some years that are even better than others, sure. But like, no year was ever like, man, there was literally nothing to play on my Nintendo Switch. Whereas with PlayStation 5 and Xbox, there were times where it's like, wow, literally nothing to play. I mean, like, there's some third-party stuff that's multi-platform, but is there a reason that I have to pick up an Xbox Series S or a PlayStation 5 just to play this one game? No, because I can play it on my PC. And they went full hog with this, with the games that were previously exclusive, and then putting those games onto other platforms, and then making public statements saying, this is the future. It's not about exclusive games. Where did you guys get this idea that that's the truth? No. I get the idea that, like, at a certain point, you let go of your exclusivity so that that game can continue to flourish and continue to bring in sales. I get that. But the idea of not bolstering your console with a whole bunch of exclusives, and I mean yearly as well, whoa, like, no. Again, by contrast, the Nintendo Switch had something exclusive every single year, multiples of which, in fact, and it really added to not only the value of Nintendo Switch in this current console generation, but also just about how it really stacks against all previous Nintendo consoles. Like, I think about the Wii and stuff, and how there are great games on the Nintendo Wii, and how successful the console was as well, but there were many years where it was just sort of like, wow, this is all you have to show? Wii Music? That's all you have to show? So, like, with Nintendo Switch, it's like somebody behind the scenes thought, no, we need to have enough studios open and working so that there's a constant flow of games to choose from. And it worked. And I'm really impressed by what the Nintendo Switch had to offer in its entire lifespan. PlayStation 5 and Xbox, however, went the complete opposite route. I'm usually pretty good about saying, like, hey, you know, the Xbox 360, that console had some really cool games like Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, Halo 3. Like, it was a great time to be an Xbox gamer during the 360 era. And then for, you know, the PlayStation 2, they had like Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that. Like, there was a lot of stuff to choose from on the PlayStation 2 that you couldn't get anywhere else. But then here on this current console generation, it was either timed exclusives or a complete lack of exclusives. And again, I just want to make this video so that if there's ever any executives watching this, games are everything. It doesn't matter if your PlayStation 5 is edging out the Xbox in horsepower, which I think it's actually the opposite, I believe. Again, it doesn't really matter, does it? The point is that it's all about the games. Like, it's always been about the games. There's definitely been consoles where they're like, the original Xbox is more powerful than the PlayStation 2, but the PlayStation 2 greatly outsold the Xbox because it had better exclusives. You know, and it's just always been that way. So my advice, if you're ever going into PlayStation 6 and PlayStation 7, don't change the public narrative, change the management behind the scenes so that you get your games out. Like, I get it. It's super expensive to make games on this level that is what the PlayStation 5 hardware provides. Make them smaller scale. Change your communication practices amongst teams. I've heard crazy stories about how it takes months to make a minor change in a video game now that is AAA, simply because it has to go down a chain of command and stuff. It shouldn't be like that. They should be smaller teams with better communication amongst the team. But, like, again, whatever Nintendo is doing, they figured it out. And if Sony and Microsoft have something to learn off of this generation, it's to look at the flow of exclusive games that the Nintendo Switch had and emulate that. Because the one thing, well, the many things that I love about Nintendo Switch, but of the many things, is the fact that like this console really inarguably had an insane amount of games. Sorry, but this topic has been on my mind a lot, especially with the Xbox showcase and having that new Doom game be multi-platform. I get the idea behind Call of Duty, sort of. Actually, that's a whole can of worms there too. But really quick on the topic of Xbox, and I want to talk about PlayStation as well specifically, but this idea of like acquiring Activision Blizzard and then making all the games multi-platform, I think for a certain amount of years at least, I think it's like 10 years or something like that, which, okay, maybe it won't be forever, but still at the end of the day, it's like you just acquired this mega corporation. Like, you have all these great assets now. Like, you should have fought to keep them exclusive on the Xbox platform. And first of all, if you're a person that owns a PlayStation, not an Xbox, this is great news for you. And I'm not trying to say like, you know, you shouldn't have a Doom. Like, it's actually really awesome that you get Doom if you don't own an Xbox, if you're a PlayStation guy. As far as like viewing it from the consumer perspective, awesome for you. As far as keeping all three companies in the console war race, that's where my concern is. I guess there's sort of like a little bit of a passion from a business sense too. I recognize that Xbox is the clear last place this generation. Like, it's not even close. They are so far behind this generation. And so acquiring Activision Blizzard was a big get. It would have helped them all out a lot to have some relevancy now and in the near future. But seeing that Doom is going to come out for the PlayStation console, it's not that big of a get anymore, because all you did was you had the ability to announce the new Doom game on your showcase, which is really great. But I mean, like, outside of that, what else do you get? You get to have the profits off of the game, but you know, you have this whole console that you need to be feeding so that the consumer base sees value in your console. So my whole thing was, I know that there was like this huge back and forth with Sony pushing really hard to stop that acquisition because they were trying to make the case that it would be a monopoly, which is bull crap, by the way. I feel like if I was in the position of Xbox, I know that it's a huge gamble, but I would have been like, hey, we are not anywhere close to being a monopoly. We are the clear, definitive last place in a three-man race. We need assets to stay in this race so that they don't become a monopoly. That would have been my angle. So that way, when I eventually acquire Activision Blizzard as a result of basically admitting, hey, I'm the loser here, you could then use those assets to put yourself back in the race. So that was like basically where I'm coming at with, like, you know, from a business sense, this seems like really bad business. And then, but again, Sony is doing the same thing with God of War and all this stuff. I would say grab stuff from PlayStation 4 and use stuff from that to maybe put out on other consoles. Again, I'm not opposed to the idea of having like your company actually sprinkle your assets to other platforms as a means of basically like advertising. Like, if someone really liked the first God of War remake game or reboot game, then like Ragnarok would be so enticing that you might actually buy the new console to play it. I guess that's the idea of there, and I think that was a PlayStation 4 game, so that's actually a really great example. But yeah, my whole point is like, don't grab IP that's from your current generation and start putting that on other platforms. I guess that's like the only thing that I think is like not a great idea. I think that the further back you go, the better. So like PlayStation 2, like put like Shadow of the Colossus and Eco on Nintendo Switch. That would be a really good choice. But then try to get like The Last Guardian remade or rebooted or ported to your PlayStation 5. Do something with it. Get a new Team Eco game, so that way, you know, there's like some level of enticement, you know, from people that own a Nintendo Switch to go out and buy a PlayStation 5. So there is a nuance to it I'm trying to put out here. But again, going back to Xbox, the fact that like the new Doom game just it does not have an exclusive home on Xbox after a humongous acquisition. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to talk about. If you can, please subscribe. Super low subscriber count right now. Your subscription will mean the world, and it will help us grow a lot faster. Other than that, take it easy.